I don't know. I feel like we just become such a family, and it would feel weird to just seclude him.
Yeah.
And
especially like freshman year when you're first starting out, like the first couple weeks, it's important to have like people with you because it's so scary and big and new and like
Yeah.
Especially with marching season, everything happening, it's like so busy, so whatever. So having someone that can come and like know they have a place to go in all this like ruckus is really important.
welcome to a couple Lindas, because we're all just a bunch of Lindas out here just trying to figure out life, and what better way to do that than over conversation. I'm your host, Desiree, and I am joined with Laura, Aislynn, and Jordan. Thanks for being here.
Sure thing.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
Laura and Aislynn are high school students in the area who are doing some pretty extraordinary things in their school, and Jordan is their music teacher, who, you know, has just been, you were saying before, just how impressed he's been with just kind of watching, you know, young folks kind of, you know, stand up in their truth and just kind of just be good humans, which apparently has been hard to do.
Yes.
For people. But, you know, showing them as an example of what to and how to be a human. But before we get all into that, I want to know, what is putting a smile on your face this week?
Okay, so for me, something that's putting a smile on my face is I just then recently got this book called 1,001 Albums That You Must Listen to Before You Die. And It's a huge tome. It's a thick book. And I have been just absolutely diving in and just listening to all different like sorts of genres and songs. It goes from 1955 until 2017. So it's got a huge range of just different things to kind of dive into. So I've been just listening and just finding a lot of new songs and just a lot of new songs and artists that I've either heard of but just never really dived into, or just in ones that are brand new to me. And that is just making me put a smile on my face. I'm loving it.
What has been a big surprise, like with one of the artists or a song that you're like, wow, why haven't I noticed them before?
One of them is a name I've always heard, and I have then listened to a few of her songs, but I never just sat down and listened to a whole album by her. I recently listened to the 25 album by Adele. And of course, we've all heard that name, and we've definitely heard some of her songs, but I've just never sat down and listened to a whole album by her. And there's definitely a reason why she's a kind of household name. She's incredible. There were just a few songs that I didn't really care for, but there were definitely some that I was kind of then shocked that I liked it so much, because it's usually not my normal cup of tea. Yeah. So definitely her would be kind of near my kind of. It's not new because I've heard her name and I've heard her songs 12.5 times now, but now just kind of new as something I would actually go to pick to listen to.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I love Adele, and I love that she still puts out just a whole album. She, you like this last one, you had to buy it on iTunes in order to listen to it, because so often nowadays you don't really devour a whole album like we used to.
You just kind of pick and choose singles. Mm-hmm. Yep. And
so I was kind of excited. I bought it as soon as I could and just kind of sat with it. I mean, I didn't have like the little liner notes with it or anything like back in the day, but it was nice to just actually consume an entire piece of work. I mean, I guess I could. I mean, Spotify has the entire album. I don't know, I'm lazy. I don't bother to do it. So what about you two? Do you have something that's putting a smile on your face?
I'll go. Mine is the TV show The Office, which is conventionally pretty old but oh my gosh. I've gone through like 3 seasons in like a week, which is a big deal for me because it takes a lot for me to like sit down and watch a show, because I always get like sidetracked or I don't really like tune in, but oh my gosh, I like it so much. It's like, it's funny and it's like easy to watch, and there's always like every episode is different, which is good because it's not like a set storyline. It's just kind of like little bits and pieces, which I really like, which makes it easier to watch too.
What made you recently start to get into it?
All of my friends have been watching it, and they all like, oh, you have to watch it. You have to just give it a chance, do it, blah blah blah. And I finally did, and
There's so many references to it.
yeah,
Oh yeah.
and
And it's a genre maker. There's certain shows that
Parks and Rec definitely mirrored their whole their whole thing after The Office.
and just like Seinfeld was a big genre maker. Like it's really cool to have those shows that are just in the time that it's on. This is a good show, but when you go back and watch it, you're
it's
wow,
yeah,
how many references are in everyday culture.
it's crazy.
All right, Laura, what about you? What's putting a smile on your face?
I feel like an old lady saying this, but mine was spring cleaning. I've been doing it for 2 weeks straight, and I literally took out my whole closet. I have clothes in there.
Wow.
And the whole downstairs room is halfway filled with all of my stuff.
I saw it. There's a lot
Yeah,
of
she
stuff.
saw it.
You have your life together more than a lot of us, so congrats.
That's true.
I mean, I put it off for years, so.
But you're
But
finally
thanks.
into it. I guess what's putting a smile on my face is I just got back from a trip to Asheville, North Carolina.
No way. Same here.
Yeah, you were just there?
I was there about a week ago.
Oh my God, yeah.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, we went Sunday through Wednesday.
We were there Thursday and Friday, so we probably then just tagged out
Yeah.
there. That's awesome.
But yeah, I love that town. It's just
too.
such great vibes. I hadn't been in a few years, and it was nice to see all kinds of new stuff have opened, new restaurants and a bunch of new breweries.
A lot of breweries. There are so many.
I knew that it was a kind of a beer capital, but I had no idea. And the fact that most of them are kind of in the same neighborhood.
Yep.
South Slope.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
That a friend of mine who lives there, we met up. He saw one of my photos on Instagram. He's like, "What? You're in town?" I was like, "Oh, you live here? That's right."
That's awesome.
So I got to catch up with him, and he was just kind of giving the rundown of what's new and everything. So that was really cool. I just love that town, and I went with some really good friends. We. It's hard to travel with people, because you're in this space and spending all this time together, and it really needs to be a good match.
Yes, it does.
For it to be a solid time, and we definitely have good chemistry when it comes to traveling. So it was a really, really great trip.
Awesome.
So we will get into our subject. So wanted to talk to you guys. Laura, I've known you for a little bit, and I think we were having dinner, a big group dinner last week, and I remember thinking God, I'm so impressed with her, and I think I just kind of said it to you. It was tell me, what are you doing? What's your story?
I didn't even know what to say to that. I was like, thank you.
Because so often, I remember being a teenager, and I was just the most awkward person. But it's cool to see there's a couple of different kids of my friends who just really are just mature and are just kind of doing their thing, and they just feel comfortable in their own skin, it seems which is a really hard thing to do. And you guys were talking about a student that is you're in band, and you're freshmen or sophomores now? Sophomore. And jinx. And we were talking about everything that's going on with the this weekend is the march that the young students are doing to hopefully change some legislation on a few things for some safety and everything that's going on in Parkland. And then some of the things in the news where there was, instead of walking out, students should walk up, and it's okay, that's a part of it as well, but there's many factors. And what really struck me is that from the story you were telling me, you guys are already kind of doing that. And so, kind of fill us in for obviously the listeners that, weren't there listening to conversation. Tell us about, there's a young man that's in band with you guys that you just kind of, taken under your wings. And maybe you want to kind of start it off, something that you noticed, Jordan,
sure.
when you first got to school, and you're like, hey.
Both of these girls, I first met them during band camp. I think Aislynn came in either at the end of band camp or kind of started into the school year, but I then met both of them through band. And one of the very first things I was told by a fellow teacher about them was they saw both of them sitting with this young man during lunch. And they then just kind of walked up to him and asked, like, "Hey, are you guys doing all right? Like, you're just having a good lunch?" Like, yeah. And it then turns out that then both of them kind of just went up and kind of walked up to this young man and kind of saw where he was kind of sitting off by himself, just having his lunch, and just asked him to come and then, sit with their much larger kind of lunch group. And I was floored. That's normally something that you would see out of like a junior or senior that is just like a absolutely golden kid, but I was shocked that these were freshmen, and not only that, they had just started, like they were in their first couple weeks of school. Yeah. So they had 1,001 things to think about other than, just then kind of going out and doing something like that. So I was shocked, but I was super, super, super happy that I heard that story, but also that I get to be a part of their, I guess I get to be a part of their teaching years, and
like you just kind of just feel honored just to
yes,
be a part of them.
I feel like I don't have much to teach them other than like, just like basic, music theory stuff now, because they really do have kind of how to be a good human being figured out now. Yeah. And they figured it out at the age of 14. And it seems now at the age of 26, I'm just starting now to figure it out. So I am just shocked by what they then just chose to do. And it wasn't like a teacher like came up to them and said, "Hey, why don't you have him join your lunch group?" They did it without any then type of grown up.
Yeah.
Just telling them to do it or just asking them to do it. It just came to them.
So let's back the story up. How did you get to that point? What made you decide to, do that?
I think part of it is we just become such a family when we hang out with each other, feels like 24/7 during marching season.
Amen.
But I don't know. I feel like we just become such a family, and it would feel weird to just seclude him.
Yeah. And especially like freshman year when you're first starting out, like the first couple weeks, it's important to have like people with you because it's so scary and big and new and especially with marching season, everything happening, it's like so busy, so whatever. So having someone that can come and like know they have a place to go in all this like ruckus is really important, and that like, I don't know, that's like the right thing to do, and that kind of thing is to bring people in together to let them know that they're not like just diving headfirst into this whole new
I think
world.
It would just feel so weird if we weren't all hanging out together.
Yeah.
Like I know during marching season we're like all together all the time.
And so did you all know him before? Because you were, I know a couple of filler schools fill up the high school, so you didn't know him before?
No, we went to different middle schools.
Okay. And so you just saw him, you're like, yo, let's invite him over, bring him into the fold. And so that was what, like a year ago? Like last year? So what's transpired from there? You guys are staying in touch? What's going on?
Oh, yeah. He still eats with us every day at lunch. He brings his Nintendo Switch and we all play it together.
Yeah, it's definitely turned into like a friendship where they can be like annoying at times, but you still love them. Yeah. It's kind of turned into that.
Yeah, he's a lot more happy, and you can tell he's kind of breaking out of his shell a little bit more. He's very open, which is good. Yeah,
that's what I was going to ask, if you've noticed maybe just a difference in his demeanor.
Oh, definitely. Oh, my gosh. Definitely. I don't really want to share too much about this kid, but I know some things about him personally that are just incredible, that have kind of made a huge, huge, huge change in his life. You can tell whenever he was like in 7th and 8th grade, he had a certain view on life, and it wasn't really the most positive one. And since then, it's been just totally opposite.
Yeah,
it's
you
just
wouldn't
incredible.
even think that.
It's incredible. Yeah,
you can tell he's like showing what he like, who he really is, as cheesy as it sounds. Like that's how he's.
Yeah. And he's like kind of doing the same thing we were. He's kind of talking to the freshmen and talking to other people and putting them in our group as well. He's kind of following in our
Yeah, there
footsteps.
were maybe a couple of kind of shyer kids like then, kind of join us. And this boy was one of the first ones to go up to those kind of shyer kids and kind of, bring them. And it's really, really, really made our kind of group feel like a family, which is something that we try to push on those kids. That
Yeah, when people
There may
walk
be
in,
times-
he's definitely like
One of
the
the
first
first-
person you see.
he will literally
the
be
one
like running up
screaming
to
at
you. And
you.
you're like, whoa, man, slow down. Yeah,
And you like
it's
hear
incredible.
a band family, and it's kind of like, oh yeah, like oh you're always. But like with us, it's very like it really is. Like
The family model fits us.
Yeah, like,
really well.
all the people that we're with, I have like their Snapchats, and we always talk every day, and I like send them like weird pictures and stuff. Like we're very close in like ways beyond just like music and
Yeah,
band.
like you always say, it's like having a bunch of brothers
Yeah.
for us.
Yeah. And that I think is something we talked about during band camp is we kind of always say this word like family, which there may be times because you're spending a lot of days with each other and a lot of hot, sweaty days with each other. You're probably not going to love each other you're really not going to like each other or love each other the whole time, but you guys are still family at the end of the day. And if there is anyone or anything that starts to hurt other people, that you guys are like the first ones to be there for them and to then help them. And I think that like just really, really, really clicked for them. And I think that is that's part of the reason why they kind of walked up to him and just kind of started a friendship from just asking him to sit at lunch with them. And that's so just simple to do, but it is also kind of hard to do because you have to kind of break out of that shell of just walking up to somebody and just kind of randomly asking like, hey, do you want to come sit with us?
Right.
But really, if you just kind of think about it, the I guess worst thing that could possibly happen is that they just say no.
Yeah.
Which I guess is their own, choice, and that's great if they want to sit by themselves. But there's really not a whole lot of bad things that, can happen out of that.
it's worth that risk of them saying no.
Absolutely.
And so, with, being in band, you kind of have this, that was nice where when I started out of high school, band camp for a couple weeks before school started. So, especially starting your freshman year, you already feel like you have a crew, like a network. And so it's not as daunting. But what about students who don't necessarily have that experience? Have you witnessed or have you been a part of another scenario where maybe a student, kind of didn't have like a network, whether they were not a part of a club or in theater or whatever? Like, what would be some, I guess, words of advice you would give to those students, or have you experienced anything like that yourselves?
I guess my advice would be to try and get outside of your box and join a club or something, because you can find something that you like and that other people have in common. And then once you're in that club, it's like those are your people.
And you never try, you'll never know. Like I talk to so many people because I'm in art and I like really enjoy it. And I always tell people like, join art, take that as your another class. They're like, oh, I can't draw, I can't. It's like
That's why you're in school, is to learn how to
exactly.
draw.
Like,
It's
that's
not
the
like you
point
have
of
to
the
show up to
class.
class and pass the final,
But yeah, just get out there, try something new, try something that makes you uncomfortable. That's like my big thing. That's how I've gotten farther and like grown in music and stuff. Is I've tried stuff that I knew would scare me, and that's how it got progressive, I guess.
And so we've got like a couple generations here at the table. Obviously my experience in high school is much different than yours is. And Jordan, you're kind of in the middle of the two of us. And, with social media and just, all the shows that are on like Netflix, right? Did you ever watch 13 Reasons Why?
Yes.
Oh my God. I could not even fathom going through, something like that, where there is just all of this communication behind that. Like, there's so many different shows and movies about this subject of bullying. Back in the day it was called like cyberbullying, but it's just kind of ways that people still have a connection to you outside, brick and mortar building. Because when I was in school, it's like once I left the school building, it's like, it's all good.
Yeah.
It's safe. But, nowadays, a person can reach you via, Snapchat or Twitter, Instagram, or even just kind of a group text that's kind of going around. And so information spreads like wildfire. So I just kind of wanted to get your perspective and, what's been your experience. You don't have to, go too in depth, but, what has been, and maybe Jordan, you can kind of start us off with,
Sure.
You're kind of in the middle of those two worlds. What are some, especially as an educator, what are some things that you're noticing, and what can, maybe community members or parents do to help with any of this?
Yeah. Something that I have really kind of noticed that is kind of a recent trend with the kind of younger kids, is that the new type of humor is just being roasted and just being as possibly negative as humanly possible is kind of like the new funny.
Okay.
Just going way, way, way over the then top.
Wow.
And just saying things that are just so sad is now funny. And while I sort of kind of get that humor, it can kind of almost turn to truth if you say it over and over and over. You'll find kids that will say something that's super, super, super sad, and they won't mean it as a whole, but there may be a small then truth to it. And I think that has made kids not really scared to say the truth, but they're scared to say the whole truth. And I don't think that's a very positive type of joke, humor, whatever. I found it funny with my kind of group of friends for a few months, and then I started getting sick of it because it was everywhere. Yeah. And it was everywhere, and it felt like something that's normally kind of a positive, smiling thing where it's jokes, humor, funny, ha, we're turning into not so happy jokes, which is weird to think about. But
I can't even really fathom what you mean by
I've seen that recently
sad.
where you there's that
narcissism
one person,
is really the kind of buzzword.
There's that one person in the first joke, it's that was funny, and then it just keeps going, and you just want to walk away from that person. It's
exactly.
It gets too
and
far.
is it that they're roasting everyone around them, or is it kind of a self-deprecating thing? What
I've seen it where they've singled people out and where it's been
themselves, just roasting them, selves.
Wow.
And I feel maybe I guess something for both in kids and friends, parents to kind of then, I guess, look out for. While humor is fine, I would just be sure that you are also having then, a talk with your kid or a talk with your friend, just to be then sure that there isn't a then, truth to that sad joke. That is something I've kind of that then is something I've kind of recently noticed is just the overwhelming just negative humor.
I think you need to know who you're talking to.
Exactly.
You and I, we can joke around.
We
won't get mad at each other, but you need to know who you're talking to. You can't say certain things to
certain people.
Someone you met last week.
Exactly.
I mean, as I reflected when I was a young, mean teenager, I've actually, forgotten some of the things that I've said. It's usually when there's a bit of a high school reunion or someone that I haven't seen in, number of years. I'm like, oh my God, you remember that time you said? I'm like, wow, I can't even believe I said that. So word to the wise, don't be me. But, it's that part of kind of finding, what's funny, that, when you're young, you can be mean, I do remember all of our friends, the jokes were pretty mean, but I don't think they may have been as sad as what you're talking about.
These are depressing jokes.
Dark.
Yeah. Wow. Extremely dark humor. And
a lot of with what's been going on, the shootings and stuff, that's not cool. Those jokes aren't funny.
Something to joke about.
Wow. Okay, so about that, obviously, those students kind of rose into the media spotlight and are, getting their activism chops going. I'm interested in hearing what are other students, what their experiences are after something like that happens. This is the first time in a while that I guess it's been a high school. I know it's been some elementary schools where those students were too young to, take up a mission like these students have. But like you were saying, like are more students taking it seriously, or more of them just kind of joking about it?
Joking about it for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
It's like the fine line between, like when something bad happens, you kind of want to find like the light in it, but not necessarily something to joke about within it, Yeah. Not like, I don't know, people just cross that line all the time.
You want to find like what you could do better.
Yeah.
Not just like
the light of it.
Yeah.
Not like, it's funny. Like it's not.
Yeah. Well, have there been some ways that students who do not find it funny, has there been, are they able to share their voice?
Our school, it was a 17-minute long kneeling in like the biggest area of our school, the Commons area, for the 17 students who passed away from Parkland. Everyone, or not many, well, we'll get into that, but a couple kids went around in a group and they knelt and they had up like signs. It was like a peaceful protest in a way, or like standing up for the people who tragically passed. But they had signs that said like, what if it's your kid, blah, blah, blah. And they had like the names of all the people. It was really powerful. But something that like really stuck with me about it, I'm sure you too, most of the people that were in the Commons area at that time weren't kneeling. They were just watching.
Or recording it. And you can hear like the laughter in the background. Like
it was.
Yeah. Just not able to, I know can be things that you don't really want to think about, and think about it in a more reflective way. Because I'm trying to think, I was in school when Columbine happened. I don't remember being particularly reflective on it, other than just like, wow, I can't believe that happened. I was like one of the first times something like that had happened in the way that it went down. I guess in the kind of the lightheartedness or whatever we took away from it was just, I don't know. We were just kind of like, we started, profiling each other, I guess, just kind of like, there is always kind of that kid or, a couple of kids that would wear trench coats or whatever. Yeah. And we're like, what's going on? But it did start some, there's like a couple of groups, because we would have, I forget what they call them, but you would have like group meetings where a lot of them are civic or social groups, or maybe it was just kind of more like a math group or whatever. But we started doing some more of those and some learning some drills and, techniques and stuff like that. But it's been both inspiring, but then also like, I realized how many people, kids probably were making jokes about it when I was in school, and I'm sure it's maybe even worse these days. So like, how are you guys feeling about everything that's going on? Because obviously you guys are a little more reflective on things. I don't know if that's just kind of a spark of, your upbringing or who you spend time with. But like, what are you guys feeling?
I just felt, I felt like worried, because our school, it just seems like there's more people on that joking side than there are people who want to take action and like do something about it. So I felt kind of worried about like where I was in it.
Yeah.
And my friends and stuff.
And it's like where there's so many more people on the joking side of it, when you try to like be serious about it and kind of be like, hey, this is not a good thing. People are like, oh no, it's, it wouldn't happen here, that kind of thing. But like,
yeah, like it wouldn't happen here.
Like,
exactly.
Yeah, there's, I'm friends with, folks that have kids who have really struggled at school for being bullied, for being different, whether it's for skin tone or maybe a way that they identify, but just some very serious things. But we always think like, oh, that would never happen here. Until it does.
And it's bad when it happens, because it hits home and you had all these signs and you did nothing.
Yeah.
And you just joked about it and you laughed about it. Yeah.
Or, kept pushing on a person that maybe, I don't know. You never know what a factor is in something like that. There's been more documentaries and some shows about, like there's the show Mindhunter, right? Yeah. Where they were interviewing folks that, committed some crime to kind of get a deeper understanding of why. And it's not, people don't just wake up one day and, decide to do things. It's a smattering of just compounding feelings and just feeling like, there's no other choice than to do something like this. And, it makes you wonder, like, what are those signs? What can I look for? What can I do? And so in a way, not that you were talking to this young man to keep him from doing anything weird, but like, you're just kind of already putting that into the atmosphere of just like bringing everyone in. Cause it's when you think about it, most of that is about like feeling like you don't have a support system or like a crew or whatever. Yeah. And so have you ever felt, has there been that person for you that kind of, maybe I know that you guys are like best friends. Is that kind of how your friendship started? Or maybe you've known each other since you were,
we met in fourth grade in the lunch line.
Yeah. And for me, I know it's kind of the same for you. In like third grade, I didn't have many friends. I wasn't like, I wasn't like I was very much a tomboy, especially that's like really what set me apart. And I always read and I never really talked to anyone.
Yeah, I was very quiet too.
Yeah, we were both real quiet. But then we met each other in the lunch line.
Yeah.
Rest is history.
And then we were best friends. And then I moved away in 7th grade. I moved to Ohio. And I was like really struggling. Like I put myself out there to make friends and stuff, but it was nothing like I had here. Yeah. And then when I moved back, it was like we just like connected
like
back. Yeah, it was like a
You're like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
I'm back. Okay, so talk to us about how, like, when you were in Ohio, like when you said that you actually put yourself out there to make friends. Like what are some of the things you did?
Well, I played volleyball, and I didn't do band, which was like me feeling insecure. Just being honest, like, about when I got there. And I was like, I don't want to do it. And then when I got back here, I'm like so thankful I did. But it was like, it was really hard for me to try and make friends. Because, like, I had you before I left, and it was like,
it's funny because I did the exact same thing. I went and played volleyball and quit band too. Yeah. And, like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, I felt like in band, since I didn't have you, I didn't really have someone, because we didn't know like many other people. It was just kind of our percussion people. But so I tried to go find like a different thing now that you weren't there to like help me through it all. So I went and played volleyball for 2 years, and I met some cool people there, but nothing like.
Yeah, when I moved, it definitely wasn't like me. Like that wasn't my personality.
Yeah.
It was weird.
It got weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt like I couldn't be like my true band kid self because I had like no one really to like be like, it's fine, you're doing great. Like it was just
and I know my mom felt the same way. Like she made one friend across the street, and we always joked that she was like with the dogs like peering out the window waiting to come home, because we just weren't ourselves there. It was just, I mean, my dad wasn't either, but we had to move because of his job. So
but now you made it back.
Yes. No, it's okay.
All's well. And I mean, as you get older, it gets harder and harder to make connections with people because you're not already automatically in this, infrastructure for it, in school and then later in college. So Jordan, you being on that next level, how's it been for you connecting? Because did you grow up here at all?
Yes and no. Okay. My dad was in the Army, so we moved every 2 or 3 years, but both my mom and dad's side of the family are from this town. Okay. So we would always come back for like summer visits, Christmas, and things like that. So kind of sort of raised here, but off and on. It's really weird because whenever you kind of move off to college, your circle of friends gets a little bit smaller. You don't have like dozens and dozens and dozens of friends. You'll have like maybe a couple dozen, and it's mostly people that are in like the same field as you. And you form some of your lifelong friends there. And then post college, it gets even smaller.
Yeah.
because people move to different jobs and start their own families and stuff. So it's been super weird, kind of seeing my friend circle change, shift, shrink. But it's also not the worst thing, because I feel like as it shrinks, it also kind of deepens, you know?
Yeah.
I feel like I would definitely trade my couple hundred friends that I had whenever I was like in 10th grade for my 6 or 7 like family like friends, you know? I would much rather have a smaller number of friends, but they're deeper and they feel, and I guess they feel like closer to me, rather than just a bunch of people that I hardly know.
Yeah, a bunch of acquaintances.
I feel like we're kind of like that on a smaller scale.
Yeah, for sure.
So stay in touch.
We always talk about that.
Yeah, like, you're never getting rid of me. Sorry.
I think I only have one friend that I still talk to from high school.
Oh, wow.
I think one. No, I have like maybe a few that I keep in like, you know, touch with every few months or so, or I'll like, you know, something on their social media page, and that's how I feel like I'm keeping up with them.
Yeah.
But I have like one friend that I basically keep up with, and it's weird because I would have never have picked him to be the person that I thought I was going to be friends with for years and years after. Like, we were friends in high school, but not like even great friends. We just kind of knew each other and we were friendly, you know?
Yeah.
And we just kept in touch, and we've been really great friends since, because it seems like both of our friend circles in college kind of meshed. And so that then, like, you know, kind of helped us form a kind of bond there.
I know with I probably still talk to about 2 friends from high school. One of them on a little more of a regular basis than the other, but that's just, you know, some distance. If I, you know, lived in the same town, I'd probably spend more time with the other, I think, because so I, you know, grew up in Nashville, but then I came here for college. So I have, you know, the college friends, and then I started working at a job that put me out more in the community. And so I was making more community friends, and then moved to Vegas for work, and then had to kind of start over. And so that was a cool experience to just, you know, I didn't know like how do you make friends? But it made me feel confident in, if I were to move again, I would kind of have a blueprint on what to do. And I would say anybody that's moving, they're like, oh, how do you dude, go volunteer. You know, things that you're into.
Meet a ton of people.
Yes. Volunteer, and then like meetup.com, you know, go on some hikes. There's always events. And like, no, they may not be like your best friends or whatever, but it does kind of put you in touch with people, and then you can kind of find your own way.
Absolutely.
But it's about just, and it could be hard to do. It is about putting yourself out there. But if let's say you're struggling with anxiety or, you know, whatever, it is a tough thing to do. But I don't know, if you could just kind of find a way to just, you know, there's been times that I've like was going to a meetup, you know, group that was like meeting for coffee or something like that. And I was like nervous. I even drove there, and I was like sitting in the car, and I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing? I can't believe it. But I would just like, okay, just go. And each time that I actually went in, I was so glad that I did. And luckily, everyone was so welcoming. And so I kind of was eyeing, and I figured out what table we were all at. So I just went up and I introduced myself. And what I noticed is that everyone else kind of came up and was like, hey, I'm so-and-so. And they just kind of went down the line. I was like, oh my God, what a relief, you know, because you're so used to thinking like everything's going to be cliquish or whatever. And, you know, a lot of that stuff subsides as you get older. I mean, it's still going to rear its head.
That's kind of how I felt when I moved back from Ohio, how much easier it was to make friends for me. But I was also very, like, I knew what I was looking for in friends, if that makes sense. I wanted them to be like my personality.
Yeah. And some articles that I've ran across here lately, and I've just, you know, I like to think about just kind of human connection, you know, even though it's like not even my field. But there's been a couple articles about how like men, as they get older, men tend to feel more, if given a survey, men will rate more so that they feel a little more alone or not as in touch, because women do tend to are able to, or society allows them to, build, these stronger bonds where society maybe doesn't let men do that. And so how can we, try to, fix that, so that we are creating a generation of just everybody can feel free to be themselves with each other. So, what's been maybe, I know this is like a, totally maybe personal question, but, like what's been your journey on that? And is this even something you think about? Like you're saying, like, how are we gonna maintain this relationship, this friendship for, here on out? And you're the guy in the room.
Yes, I am.
Like, what are some of your thoughts on that? Like, obviously you're not quite at that age yet where, maybe some of these folks are feeling more lonely, but, have you felt, comfortable in just kind of keeping and maintaining close friendships with people?
Yeah. Probably in my kind of super, super tight knit friend circle, I've got about 3 guys that I still keep up with, and talk to on not a daily basis, but close to. And I feel like the key to it is you have to find people that are similar to you, which I guess is kind of what a friend is on like the most like basic level.
The definition.
But like you have to find people that you have to be comfortable talking about certain topics with. Like you very well may be friends on the court, like if you're, playing sports and stuff and you may click there, but if you really can't click on hey, I need to talk about this because I just, need to vent about something, then maybe they're not your best friend. Maybe they're just a good friend, Yeah. And I feel like I have found 2 or 3 of those people that I kind of click with, where if something happens, whether it's family, friends, work, that I can be like, hey guys, do you mind if we hop in chat? And just like vent because I am just mad, And they're like, oh yeah, go for it. Because usually that kind of, turns into me venting and I feel, better about it just then because I said it to somebody.
Yeah.
And I don't ever really feel judged by them. And we usually kind of crack, jokes about it, So I feel like that's really kind of the key. Is finding those types of people that you can, share those things with. And I don't think that that's something you find commonly, I feel like you find at best 2 or 3 people throughout like your life that you can share like your deepest things with and not feel scared to do that.
Yeah, you trust them.
I mean, I would say the same.
Yeah.
And I would say, and moving forward, with some of the stories that, I read about, it's, people start getting married or having kids and then friendships fall to the wayside. It's like, just try your hardest to keep those friendships, those connections, open and connected, and don't let there's like the theory that like when you have kids that everything should be focused on the kids, and it's like, no, the kids are gonna be fine, like actually kind of work on you so that you can be a better person for when your kids need you in that way. And so that's that's the kind of advice that I kind of took from that, is just make sure that you are focusing on the things that are important. As well as, so regarding men's friendships, actually, one of the things that actually puts one of the biggest smiles on my face is seeing your dad interact with Bob. And that, you rarely see, I guess, just a good connection that's not just like, but, they actually, they're affectionate with each other. They'll joke with each other. They don't agree on things. Definitely.
Yeah.
But there's still a lot of, love there, friendship there, and it's obvious. So it just kind of goes to show, like, no, a person does not have to fully, agree with you or be just like you to be a really good friend. They just need to, I don't know, they just need to be a good human.
Yeah, for sure.
So just kind of, and I remember the first time I just kind of saw them like interacting, I was like, hey, that's different. I don't normally see that. So it just kind of like stuck out to me was all. So
something else I wanted to bring up, because it's kind of almost something we almost sort of talked about, was the whole like walk up, not like walk out thing. And I feel like we kind of sort of talked about, well, yes, there is some truth to that. There's also kind of a backstory to that. And I just really feel like I really, 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 really badly want to put out there. Yes, it is obviously a good human being thing to do to walk up to somebody whenever they need a friend. However, I don't want that message to be skewed as whenever there is something tragic that happens, that it's not the kid's fault for not going up and talking to that kid, because you do not want that kind of weight on their shoulders at all.
Yeah.
So while I think that there is some truth to the walk up movement, I think maybe the kind of like answer lies in the middle of walking up and walking out. I think that there definitely needs to be change made, but I also think that kids can do their part of helping out their fellow, friend.
Yeah.
But I definitely don't want them to feel like it's their job to be sure that school shootings don't happen, because that is definitely not up to them in any sort of sense of the word.
Yeah, I agree. There needs to be like a little bit of both.
Yes.
Yeah. It's not just being nice.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more.
I mean, because I could imagine that is a burden that maybe some students probably feel like they have to take up, and then that creates all kinds of other maybe anxiety for them, because it feels like this unattainable task.
Exactly.
But no, you make very, very excellent points. So yeah, I mean, I guess in a way, something like this kind of sparks one to. I guess what kind of frustrates me about things is that you don't always know what to do. When change needs to happen, you're like, but how do I do that?
Now what?
And so it's been kind of cool to see these students that are going to talk to their own state legislators. They're doing the big march in D.C. All kinds of groups are doing the similar things in their cities and states and all that. But it's it's enlightening, but then it's also kind of disheartening, because these changes don't get made. But over time, they will.
Exactly.
So I guess we just have to all keep plugging along.
Exactly. You have to just keep on swimming. Keep on swimming.
But also taking care of ourselves and not, getting too stressed out over it. Linda, honey, baby, what are you doing? Do you have a honey for us this week, Aislynn?
I do. And it's the weather. Oh gosh, it's supposed to, in my mind, when I thought about like the day spring starts, March 20th, that's it's gonna be warm and the flowers are gonna be all vibrant and blah blah. But then you get there and it's about to snow. It's really discouraging.
We're out for a
Tennessee
snow
weather.
day.
The second day of spring, it's
I hate it too.
I'm ready for the warmth. I've got my winter pushed away now, and I'm ready for sunshine and all that good stuff.
It's like the meme that keeps going around where it's the weather is like that one person that has another point and another thing.
And another.
All right, what about you, Laura?
Okay, my thing kind of goes back to social media, and I know we've talked about this before. The friends that have a new best friend every day. I just don't understand that. Having a best friend,
That's
I couldn't even, I don't understand that.
yeah.
Oh my God.
I get having making a friend, but not having a best friend every day, and then you
That's so
erase
weird.
the pictures of last week's best friend
Wow.
because something happened. I don't get.
I've had the same best friend for 8 years. I can't imagine.
Yeah, I just don't. I can't even think about it.
Cycling out
Yeah.
through the different friend list.
just
That's
weird.
so
I
weird.
just don't get it.
It's like the MySpace, the top 8.
Yes.
And they were,
That
that's when you knew you messed up.
that thing was brutal too, because you would just go up and check, because you would think that you were good friends with somebody, and you're like, I think I was number 2 last week, and you go and check, and you're not even on the list anymore. And you're like, I must have said something.
What happened?
Yeah, that was brutal back then.
So many fights. What about you,
For
Jordan?
me, it's kind of about social media too. Again, it kind of goes back to the whole walk up, not walk out. I'm seeing a lot of posts. I've been seeing a lot of posts from older people, kind of making fun or getting mad at kids, kind of going out and being more part of their world,
Yeah.
and that's kind of not cool to see, because I feel like, yes, school is there to teach you your very kind of, basic maths, sciences, reading, writing, but it's also teaching you how to be a human being too. And they are learning that, I guess, sadly, kind of in the worst way possible, having then a shooting and having, to go through that. So that's just kind of made me sad, angry, kind of, just a mix of things whenever I'm seeing parents and grown-ups kind of jeering and mocking these kids that are being more active.
Yeah, it's not like an opinion post like, oh, I could see that. It's like
as if
these
we're
like
passive about
yeah.
I guess that I saw this meme that was like, so you are then telling me that the kids who last month were eating Tide Pods are also, trying to change our nation.
I saw the same
and,
one.
and it just makes you roll your eyes because it seems like it's common sense. Like, yes, there are some incredibly, for lack of a better word, dumb kids that try things, like eating, pods and stuff. But you can't fault a few for the, masses.
Right.
You know? And I feel like there's a good, solid number of these kids that are growing up and are wanting to make a very positive change. And they are getting mocked for it because a very, 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 very small portion of their peers are doing dumb things. And I think that's like the silliest thing
ever. And that
ever.
could be someone's parent.
Yeah.
Like that's how they're teaching their kid too.
Exactly. Because I don't think there's really any teenager that grew up that never did anything dumb. Like teenagers do dumb things. Now ours get posted on the internet for likes and comments, and so maybe it's a little bit different, But that has just been my kind of like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? And I usually just close out, Facebook and go do something else because that is just not a very positive thing to do with my time.
It is frustrating to see like that generational stuff where they are like, oh well, you like. Towards my generation, they're like, well, if you'd stop spending your money on avocado toast, you could afford to buy a home and all this. Like, well, actually, if you hadn't messed up the economy,
if you hadn't messed up the entire housing market,
I was playing outside all day, and they post like something about the Tide Pods or something.
Yeah.
Like,
right? Like, if everybody could just chill out,
please.
So mine is, maybe I have to, I'm not sure, but we'll start with a little more lighthearted one. So we were in Asheville, like I said earlier, great trip. And Asheville is kind of known as like a very chill, hippie town where everybody's like, love and peace and, whatever.
So super, super, super nice people there. Unbelievable.
However,
this one person.
There's this one person. We were in the car and heading somewhere like to go to a market or something like that. So anyways, we're right downtown and we're sitting at a red light, and there is this lane is closed sign. So it's a 2-lane street. Just we're heading this direction. The lane next to us is heading the opposite. But there was a road closed sign, and we're sitting at the light, and we've been sitting there for a minute. It's not like we just kind of rolled in on a yellow sign, messing over. It's not a stop sign. Anyways, this SUV behind us, I guess, is just like done. Done with us. Done with sitting at this red light, or didn't realize this or whatever, but they blow past us, almost taking out the driver's side mirror, and they run over this cone, blow through a red 4-way stop light, and then just floor it up. I'm like, and we just like, what just happened here?
That's not how like traffic works. Like, what in the world are you thinking?
What was that even about?
You can't possibly have to be somewhere that fast.
Exactly. Honey, it's the middle of the afternoon. You live in Asheville. Like, you don't.
You're probably going to like.
People are like super lax about everything.
Right. I left the apartment at like 10 a.m. to go get the coffee. It's like everyone's kind of like wiping their eyes, just like they're waking up. Like, like no one works here. But meanwhile, you were in such a hurry that you had to run through a cone, run through a stoplight, and like get to your next destination. It's like, well, okay, I'm glad you made it there. Thanks for the scare. Get your life together, though, please. And thank you. And then the next one is the Sacramento with the young man who was killed in his backyard.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's like, again, people are so afraid. I'm like, there were 3 or 4 of these cops, and they're chasing after a young man that they think, did something, but there weren't, that many gunshots. And so, Washington Times or New York Times, posted they got some surveillance, the video from on the cop's person and then from a helicopter. And just what really upsets me is, okay, let's say you are afraid and you fire off all of these rounds, but then you listen to the recording, they're acting like, oh, hey, this is the first thing that they say. Oh, hey, this is the police. Can you hear us? And, hey, we just want to make sure that you're okay. Honey, you just, what do you think? And it took them minutes to even just go and, allegedly apprehend him. But why are you so afraid? Like, what it is, as I'm wearing a black hoodie, remind me not to wear a black hoodie. But what is so afraid? What is making you so fearful of one person? You guys, there's 3 of you, you're well trained. But this one guy, not a kid, he's like 21 years old, has an iPhone in his hand, and you just get so freaked out and you have to, handle it that way. It's just really, it's like, and another one, this happens again. Yep. And then another thing with the media, the handling of these types of stories, with the bombing suspect in Austin, where he's found, but the story, the narrative is about how he was just like a little tortured, troubled young man,
a troubled kid. He was literally building bombs,
He built.
That's a little bit more than troubled.
That's a little bit more. But meanwhile, this other young man in Sacramento,
is holding an iPhone,
and he's got to go. Yeah, he's got to go down.
Yeah.
So just frustrations. Yep. So that is a couple of Lindas. You can, if you could, listening, you like the show, rate us on iTunes. A couple of Lindas. Share the show with your friends. You can find us on Facebook at A Couple of Lindas. As well as email us at coupleoflindas@gmail.com. I want to thank you 3 again for being a part of the show.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us.
Yeah. And we'll catch you next time on A Couple of Lindas.